It's DeAndre Hunter at Atlanta Hawks. You listen to the three-point conversion.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Emory Healthcare Courts here in Brookhaven, our practice home of the Atlanta Hawks, for a very, very big day for us today. We are happy to have you all here with us. We have all kinds of folks. We got players, we got staff, we got media, we got fans. It's a great gathering here for a very special occasion. We'd also like to welcome those of you who are watching on Valley Sports South and Valley Sports Southeast and listening on our Hawks flagship radio station, 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. My name is Bob Rathbun, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you these two gentlemen. We'll begin with the general manager of the Atlanta Hawks, Landry Fields.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. It's good to see everyone here, everyone in the media as well, across all technology spaces. For us, this is a very, very exciting day. Everything that we've spoken about from the front office, you know, the vision of being a championship caliber franchise, the values of character and unity, and placing a strong emphasis on development, that doesn't just happen overnight. You know, it starts with the group that's in there right now, but for us, it's all about looking for partners that can help us get us to where we need to go, and do it in a way that's authentic and true to Atlanta when it comes down to it. And so for us, getting to know Quinn and getting to know his family and welcoming them to Atlanta is something that's huge for us, and it's absolutely huge for this franchise. And I couldn't be more proud than to sit up here and say that we've got a hell of a coach, and we're very excited about bringing him in and helping us lead this group going forward. So appreciate you. Thank you, Quinn.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I get the pleasure of introducing the 15th full-time head coach of the Atlanta Hawks, Quinn Snyder.
Okay.
We first got to know one another when he was the point guard at Duke for Mike Krzyzewski, taking the Blue Devils to 3 out of 4 Final Fours during his run there in Durham. And I was looking back today, Quinn, the first game that I called for you was at Cameron Indoor Stadium your junior year against Clemson. And you only won that one by about 40.
Did I play? Did I play?
You had a great game.
Okay. Right.
You had a great game.
I don't.
But Quinn has been successful at all levels of basketball, whether it's the collegiate level, in the G League, of course in the NBA. His run at Utah, he won as many games as any coach except for the late great Jerry Sloan. He had outstanding teams that were disciplined at both ends of the floor, a coaching genius. And it's a pleasure to introduce to you a guy who was with us as an assistant coach in the 13-14 season, and we welcome him back to Atlanta. I can't be happier to introduce my friend and the new head coach of the Hawks, Quinn Snyder.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Well, it's exciting to be back here with Landry. I guess I'd like to start by thanking Tony and Jamie for this opportunity. As I said, it's something that I'm awfully not just excited but grateful. I've had a chance to coach in this league for 16 years, and I've had a chance to work in some fantastic organizations with some really, really good, talented people. So, you know, when I was looking for the next opportunity, I think I had a good idea about the things that were important to me. And, you know, the process of getting to know Landry, Kyle, seeing the things that were important to them and important to Landry in particular were things that just lined up with what I was looking for. You know, someone that's, you know, not just bright, but creative and innovative, understands, I think, the resources and the commitment it takes to really build a program. You know, and as much as anything, just the character that's here in the front office was something that I really wanted to find, that type of partnership. And I know, you know, that's why this situation, you know, I think is such a good fit for me personally. So it's not often where you find, you know, a level of idealism that's also met with kind of a practical reality, and I think that's, you know, the situation that I've been fortunate enough to come into. The players we had a chance to meet this morning, I'm really, and even more so after our meeting, but it's a group that I'm really excited to coach across the board. I think it's a group that, you know, one of the topics that Landry and I talked about was development, And to the extent that we can develop both the players and the group collectively at the same time, it's always a challenge, but those challenges are often the most rewarding and the best opportunities. So my wife's excited. She spent some time here in Atlanta when she was younger, and obviously the last time we were here. So really, really looking forward to being a part of this community as well. I'm familiar with it. I'll get a lot more familiar with it, but this city is a city that we're looking forward to living in and moving sometime. I got pulled away from my family for a little bit.
Right. But with that, Quinn, welcome. And we'll open it up to questions. We've got Riley and we've got Jay with the mic. So if you will introduce yourself and your affiliation, and let Quinn get to know you and Landry as well, and we'll let it go. So, Lauren, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. Lauren Williams from the AJC. My question first is for Landry. Looking at the timing, a lot of things seem to happen very quickly. I'm curious when you identified Quinn as the top candidate in the pool that you were looking at.
Yeah, so when we made our change with Nate, I had Kyle give Quinn a call. It was our first call. And going into it, I said that we wanted to be aggressive. And the reason I could say that was because we had already lined up what we were looking for in our next basketball coach. And fortunate for us, getting on the phone with Quinn, he mentions humility and selflessness as core and chief to some of the character that he wants in and around the basketball team, as well as what we're trying to do in the front office. I was almost sold right there. So it was a big moment, getting to know him through that process, and just couldn't be more excited about it.
Caleb Johnson, Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Quinn, I'm curious, what made you comfortable with joining the Hawks in a mid-season point, as that's pretty rare to happen?
Yeah, it is. I think the circumstances themselves are even more rare. Landry referenced kind of that, although it was typically short compared to maybe a normal interview process, it was a normal process. It was, a lot of intensive conversations. And really, I think both he and myself and Tony and Kyle getting to instinctively knowing that there was things that we had alignment on, but then really talking about it and feeling them. And one of those things that didn't come out right away was, how the process would work as far as, when I might start. And, as I thought about it, I think the opportunity to come in now, although it may be challenging, is also an opportunity to hopefully go on a run. But also, and I think these things are not mutually exclusive, to begin to build a foundation, a culture, and you don't do that, even in a short period of time. The NBA, you hear the term foxhole a lot, and to get in the foxhole with these guys, and I think those things have the opportunity to really accelerate the building of relationships. You're faced with adversity, and you go through it together collectively. And I didn't want to wait until next year to do that. I felt like that was something that it just made sense to me to begin now.
Hi, this question is for Quinn. This is Jamila Johnson from ATLHawksFans.com. I know a little bit of time ago, but how much of your coaching is influenced by your experience as a player?
Yeah, I wasn't as good, even though I played against Clemson. No disrespect to Clemson, but I hope I played. Compared to, one of the things that was neat with this guy and Kyle is they were NBA players, and I think any level you play at, there's certain things that you take from it. Whatever level you are at, it's important to you, and you go through the same challenges, both individually and with a group. Different group dynamics. You have a bad game, a good game, expectations. So I think probably more than anything, you hear people talk about being a part of something that's bigger than you, and this game, and particularly the NBA game, and the intensity of the game, the level of competitiveness that's required, it has a way of providing that opportunity, to collectively come together. And that's, any of us, there's a lot of different types of teams. You know, it's really rewarding to have that experience, and it's not, you know, it's elusive as well. So that's what makes it so much better.
And I would add just to that, you know, you bring it up as a former player, also, you know, Quinn's past and coaching overseas in the G League as well as obviously in the NBA, just huge for us as far as the experience, and then just him being able to see different situations and giving him that broad experience for us was big time.
Welcome to Atlanta, Coach Quinn. My name is Terrell Thomas, These Urban Times. I wanted to know, what you having such great leadership skills and, you know, a high level of coaching. This team is very young, a very young roster, and very top heavy with our two stars in DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. Were you able to identify some things from afar before you took the opportunity and ways in which you'll help them grow on and off the court?
You know, the interesting thing, we met this morning, and one of the things I told the group, and I think it's true, you know, generally, but I think even more so right now, is that, you know, I have an opportunity to learn from them as well. And I'm going to need, you know, our staff's help, the players' help. So youth can be deceiving. You know, we've got some guys that, you know, you can tell already that they want to get better. And, you know, that to me is one of the most gratifying things about this job, is the chance to, you know, to see players improve individually and also help them feel, you know, the opportunity to have the whole team be even greater than the sum of the parts. And, you know, again, that, as I said before, that's not always easy, but I think it's something that we're all focused on, even in this short period of time. Can figure that out even in one meeting.
Hey Quinn, Zach Klein, Channel 2 here in Atlanta. Good seeing you again, welcome back. Landry mentioned you were clearly far and away the number one choice. What was the number one thing you had to be sold on in order to take the job now?
Well, Landry referenced, you know, the word humility and selflessness, and there's certain values for all coaches and really in any organization that you identify and identify with. And I felt like you could, the number of conversations, the transparency in the conversations, I had a chance during the course of this year to think about those things a lot. There are things that are sometimes more difficult to define. And as you get to know people, the innovation, the creativity, the intelligence, and more than anything, just a strong vision for what it means to build something that, you know, that takes your sweat equity, you know. So that, you know, the combination of all those things, I guess it's hard to identify one. But if I had a transcript of the conversations, you know, that I think it would become very clear that for me and with the players as well, you know, it was a combination of a lot of things, both personally and professionally, that, you know, that really lined up. And it just made a lot of sense to me to have this opportunity.
Raphael Haynes with the three-point conversion. Of course, there are challenges coming in mid-season, you know, implementing your philosophy and system, but what do you see as the benefits coming in?
Yeah, and, just to respond to the challenges, first of all, I think that the important thing there is to actually recognize that that's the case. It's a different situation, and I want to be really mindful of that in how we proceed with that process. And it's to me, it can be as much of a challenge. We lace through that as just an opportunity. And as I said before, you know, these guys sitting over here, you know, I love it, you know, and our group to be, you know, connected. And sometimes losing does that for you. Sometimes winning does. You know, we've won the last couple games, which is terrific. Joe's done a great job. Guys have played hard, played together. But going through those things, it's you want to go through them. You're going to go through them eventually, and I think that's what builds the character of a team. You know, is those moments, whether it be success or failure. And I wanted to be a part of that, one way or the other. I guess the other thing I would add, you know, the undercurrent of that, going through those things together, is the opportunity to form relationships. That it's different when you're having dinner with somebody than if you're going into a locker room after a big win or a tough loss.
Hey, Coach, Steak Shapiro from 92.9 The Game. 20 games left. There's this sense of urgency as you guys are making a playoff run to move up in the conference and set yourselves up for success. Feels like a big challenge to learn a roster and then know the league. Great, you've only been out a few months, but how big a challenge to figure out who your guys are, how you want to play them, and then the 20 games you have left, having not been in the league this year, learning those guys and trying to move up in your seeding in the Eastern Conference. So how do you take on that type of challenge?
Well, I do remember the East and the West, and I know I'm in the East now. And you raised great points. Those are all the things for me that, as you're thinking about it, those are the challenges, as you said. You know, to as I mentioned, you know, to go on a run, to improve, you know, to win, but also, you know, to get better at the same time and lay that foundation we talked about. I don't think the two things are mutually exclusive, and I've got to find a balance there. I told the players this morning, you know, the last thing I want to do is put too much in their heads where they stop being instinctive, because we've got some guys with great basketball instincts. So you stay familiar with the league, you know, and you know, as far as I'll be watching a lot of film, trying to learn a lot. I'll be leaning on the coaches a lot. I want to talk, you know, I want to hear what, you know, players feel good. We talked again, you know, you can listen and learn, and I think it requires that. And to your point, you know, there are things actually in the NBA, the one thing you can count on is change. And so even over the course of the season, you'll see it from the regular season to the playoffs. So, you know, I need to study and work and then find a good balance with that and hopefully achieve a lot of those goals throughout the rest of the season.
Quinn, Jeff Schultz of The Athletic. Welcome back.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, thanks.
Your ability to connect with players and create a culture has been referenced often over the last several days. I'm just wondering what you've learned in the NBA about how you go about doing that and the difficulty of it. Obviously in a league where guys make a lot of money and sometimes the coach doesn't have a huge say.
Yeah, I think players want to get better. You know, I think players want to get better and they want to be coached. And, you know, I think the relationships are what allows you, you know, to coach them effectively. And so, and those things, again, it's part of the reason I wanted to start now. And, you know, I think that our group, you know, needs to just decide to trust each other. And, you know, it's incumbent upon all of us, myself first and foremost, you know, to not violate that trust. And it's surface level initially, just on a, you know, if it's something that I say I'm going to do. But I think over time, you know people by their actions, and if you're transparent, you know, those are the things in my mind that build those relationships. It's, you know, being real about what you believe and understanding that you can differ with people and to not be insecure or defensive about any of those things. And that's hard. I mean, we're all like that. It's hard for me. But that's also probably, you know, when you have any relationship like that with a player or a team, that's where, you know, you find a lot of gratification. And that's something I enjoy doing in and of itself. And I also know how important it is, not just for a coach and players, but players and Landry and myself. And those are the opportunities that I see.
Hi, Coach. Kevin Taylor, Taylor Made Sports with Kevin Taylor. Welcome back to Atlanta. And I have a two-part question, actually. One of the things that's been said during this transition is character. So what would the character that you would like to have with this team, as well as what is your main expectation from the team as well as your coaching staff on a day-by-day basis?
I think it's easy. We all want to get better, you know, and that takes a lot of different forms. We had a staff meeting this morning, and you know, I told the coaches I need them to help me, and you know, to help me figure out, you know, what we can do, what I can offer, and again, not to fill up their minds with too much stuff that, you know, could be counterproductive. So it's, as far as the qualities in players, you know, I think first of all, every player is different. We're all human beings, and everybody has different contributions, different character traits. But some of the things that Landry mentioned at the outset, the unselfishness and the respect, the competitiveness, with the team and to compete together, and for the right things that help the group. So I'm excited to coach these guys. I need to watch them more. But even this morning, you can feel, some palpable energy that, I think they can bring and they can provide to each other.
Kevin Snyder, Hawks.com. I have two questions for Quinn. The first is, what's your lasting memory of your first trip through Atlanta a decade ago? And second, Landry noted that Kyle made the first call. How would you characterize your relationship with Kyle over the years?
Well, I may not give you my first trip because I was down here playing against Georgia Tech, not Clemson too. To talk about Kyle and I have had a very close relationship ever since I was here. So I had a bad hip, which has since been replaced. I have two of them that are replaced now, and Kyle can't be blamed for that because he didn't miss a lot. And I was smart enough to know that's the guy I want to work with because I won't have to move too much. I think this is a unique city, and even though we lived here for a short period of time, it was a place that we really enjoyed it here. And, circumstances, caused us to go to Utah. So it's a general sense. Sometimes you get a feel for a place. We've all had that in different ways. And then what was the second part of the question? You got to give them to me one at a time. Short-term memory.
Your relationship with Kyle and just
yeah.
your impression of this.
When Kyle, when I coached Kyle as a head coach, we were both in different places in our career. And he was someone, I think because I had coached him before, was someone that we had every player is different as far as how you interact with them. And he was somebody that we talked a lot. We talked a lot philosophically about certain things as it relates to basketball. We talked about specific things. Some of it was based on, footwork and how to incorporate, strength and conditioning into, he and I have talked about it, like pivoting. This is going to sound silly to you, but, when you're warming someone up, can you incorporate all those things? So in some sense, philosophical stuff. And then obviously, when he got his position this year, when he's named assistant GM, that was something that I was really excited for him, independent of all this. So we've been friends for a long time, and he's been a good friend to me. And his feelings about Landry, a little bit like Landry said, everything was just affirmed, that I had heard about Landry.
Brandon Harper, 680 The Fan. Coach, usually when coaches take some time off, for whatever reason, they have time to reflect, things they've done right, things they've done wrong, previous location.
Yeah.
During your time off, have you really had time to think about some of the things that you did right, some of the things you did wrong at your old location, and what changes would you make now that you're the new head coach of the Hawks?
Well, the primary thing that I really wanted to accomplish this year was to spend time with my family. And not that I'd done that wrong, but this job, you're not able to do it as much. I felt like, I wasn't ready to retire, and that might not be a while, and I wanted to do that now. So that was, that wasn't all I did in the off season, but when I was driving 40 minutes on a commute to school, I had a lot of time to reflect. As far as the right and the wrong, those things are always nuanced, and I think, you probably think more about what you did wrong. And I wouldn't even, there's different types of right and wrong. Things you may do this a little differently. I think that's the thing that's unique about any situation, is that the challenges and opportunities are, specific to those situations. So, a team is different. How do you play differently? you know, how do you prepare differently? So a lot of things that I could get pretty granular on too from a basketball standpoint. But the reflection, as much as anything, was also kind of forward-looking to, you know, what opportunity out there could be rewarding. The way that, you know, I mentioned before, I was really fortunate to work with good people and great organizations, and you start to understand what that looks like as well, and you want more of it. You want it again.
Charles Odom with the Associated Press. Welcome back to Atlanta. My question is to Landry. This is obviously, if you had waited until the end of the season, there might be other opportunities that he could have considered. Did that at all factor into the timing of your decision to make a move now?
No, as I stated before, this is something that, as far as us making a move that we did, been thinking about for some time. And, you know, going into it, you know, we had two separate things going on. It's just like, where's the state of our team right now, and how can we best serve them and set us up for the end of the season success following the All-Star break? And then how are we going to position ourselves organizationally beyond this year? And it's something where, you know, kind of looking at the broad spectrum of, you know, who that could be, there's only so many that would have been available, and that doesn't even necessitate that Quinn was going to take over, you know, mid-season. So it wasn't a huge factor for us. I knew that the first and foremost we needed to address our ball club, and that's what we did.
Any other questions?
Hey, Coach. Last time you were here, I think there's 5 NBA head coaches that are part of that staff.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, first of all, how does that happen, that you have 5 different guys in that short amount of time? And what do you remember about that group in terms of just the camaraderie and how much you stay in touch with? Pretty remarkable story when you think about it.
Yeah, it is, you know, and I didn't know that was the number. You know, I knew there was a lot of people that have gone on to have success. Even though it's a short period of time, I think one of the neat things about being here is the opportunity to learn from people. Taylor Jenkins, who's in Memphis now, he was on my staff in the D League, so Bud and I get to argue about, you know, I don't have a tree. You know, Kenny's someone that I keep in touch with, but, you know, not as frequently maybe, but there's those relationships kind of, time is less relevant. You know, you kind of pick up where you were. Darvin, you know, is a close friend that I've known for a long time. And when I look back on it, you know, we were all trying to kind of figure out how we could help Bud and help the team. And it's gratifying, you know, and it's fun to see, you know, guys have success. You know, coaches, you're in the national anthem and you look down there and you see somebody you know and you feel good about it. You feel good for them. And I think that's part of working together. You know, I think there's an understanding of, you know, the job can be hard at times. And those are guys that you root for. You know, you want to beat them, but you root for them.
Great. Well, thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Landry. We will end this formal part and, of course, make these gentlemen available for one-on-ones. Garen and John and Billy will help you do that. But once again, Quinn, welcome back.
All right.
We can't wait. Awesome.